What is the American government's position in all of this? Does it sort of support the idea, the case that, you know, Agent Orange did do severe harm to American servicemen and, of course, Vietnamese?
Since Congress in 1991 initiated a law to have compensation for American veterans, there's an acknowledgement that Agent Orange causes diseases. And now you're asking the question for Vietnam and whether they have responsibility to the Vietnamese. That's never been acknowledged by the U.S. government.
I mean, Gerson, you've been working, as you said, for a long time on this case, and you're very personally committed, and you've been over to Vietnam, you know, for yourself, you know, numerous times. What has shocked you the most as you've been dealing with this fairly horrific sort of story and its aftermath? What's been the one thing that has sort of stayed with you throughout it all?
It's how terrifying it is to look back and feel and remember that exposure as these guys walk through and these people were sprayed with this chemical, watching trees die around them, but they were walking, even look at American soldiers, they walk through with a mist. They had no protection, there's no gas masks. There's a discussion of gas masks. There weren't gas masks really. They walked through this chemical poison that companies knew was a poison. The fact that this was being hidden by the manufacturers is something that if there weren't cases would never be revealed. The documentation that we have internally, including reports saying, don't let the government know this until we can figure out what to do, or this might affect our worldwide sales, is horrendous in a different way that's never realized. So to look at the culpability of the manufacturers against the government, we see the government spraying. They thought they were doing it to protect against snipers. How deceived they were to think that that was the limitation of what the harm would be, and knowing that what they did harmed people up until this day.
But you are presumably dealing with people representing these corporations who are not the same men who took these decisions, you know, 30, 40 years ago. It's a new generation of corporate lawyers and what. Do they rest easy in their conscience? I mean, when they go through these millions of pages of documents and see the evidence for themselves?
You know, that's always a good question because you've got a different. It's not the population that actually did that, and I guess that what we look at in America, in the legal system, is that when corporations randomly do horrendous acts, that there's a corporate responsibility for those acts as long as that corporation's there. One assumes that they earn money and they made a decision to do that, and that they continue with responsibility to pay for the harms that were caused for the profits they were trying to make.
And while the culpability argument continues among experts, it is the harsh survival on a day-to-day basis for the victims of Agent Orange. It is not discussion they need, it is help.
I am a teacher, so I have to work half the day at teaching. But when I come home, then I look after my granddaughter. The most difficult part of caring for her is getting her to eat, because she can't eat by herself and I have to help her. I make the food soft with water and help her to eat it. But besides this, life is very hard for her. She cannot speak, she cannot understand, she cannot listen to me, and can't do anything for herself. We have to help her with everything.
Money would make all the difference to the lives of Ma'a, a Special Forces vet, and his family. $10 a month is awarded by the government to those affected, but it does not go far.
Our family was very sad and disappointed to have a disabled child, especially the family of my daughter-in-law. They were really very upset and so disappointed. So we had to encourage them and to explain that it was the effects of the toxic chemicals from the war. And then we all decided to try and help each other overcome our negativity. And we began to focus on the best ways to help our son and daughter-in-law to take care of our disabled granddaughter.
Sometimes I have such worrying thoughts about when I pass away. Who will look after my son's family and support them? At the moment, I can help them. But my daughter-in-law works very hard in the fields to earn a living. And if I pass away, a greater burden will be placed on her shoulders. I love my son, my daughter-in-law, and my grandchildren. I can't describe what will happen to them, but I love them, and I hope they will be happy, and I wish them all the best after I'm gone.
I think the American public are very good people, but the people who work for the government seem to want to ignore the toxic effects of the war in Vietnam. I myself hope that the United States government and the Vietnamese government will soon begin to work together to find a good way to help the victims of Agent Orange, especially victims' families like my own.
Guess in the film, Battle's Poison Cloud was made in 2002. What has happened since then? Bring us up to date, I mean, with the compensation claims.
The claims have proceeded in court in New York. And there's two lawsuits going on simultaneously, one for the American veterans and one for the people of Vietnam. Both of those lawsuits were dismissed. Now they're going to the Second Circuit, and I'm confident that if the Second Circuit reads all the documentation presented, they'll realize that the companies actually were in control of what they were doing, controlled the manufacturing process, and more importantly, we're manufacturing to make money a more toxic product, which they could have made much safer if they didn't do it the way they did it.
But you're up against very powerful, large corporations. This could just go on and on and on, couldn't it?
I've been working on this case for over 15 years now. So the answer is absolutely yes. And how it's being funded is a group of attorneys, myself included, are giving our money to fund it. So we have, in the US, there's not a system that has outside funding for cases like this. We fund it on our own. We are committed to this issue and are committed to the cause because these people have been forgotten.
Gerson Smoger, thank you very much for coming in to talk to us about this subject. I appreciate it. Thank you. That's it for now, but join me next time for another edition of Witness.